All right, guys. So with this upcoming Senate impeachment trial of former President Donald J. Trump, it's important to keep in mind from the side of the Republicans that there are basically three camps, right? There's the establishment camp, right? The super pro-establishment camp, the NEOCONs, aka Liz Cheney, probably Mitch McConnell, Ben Sasse, Pat Toomey. Establishment Republicans, right? Run-of-the-mill Republicans that want President Trump gone. They want to eliminate him from the party so that they can go back to business as usual, right? And I personally think part of this is that they don't necessarily want people paying attention to politics anymore, right? They want politics to become boring again. One way to do that is to get rid of President Trump. Then you have those who are in the middle, right? Like Kevin McCarthy, who want to keep both sides together, who is like, we have to coexist because at the end of the day, us coexisting gives us the best chance of defeating the Democrats. And then maybe one day he may become the Speaker of the House. Okay, that's Kevin McCarthy, right? You saw him go and meet with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago to try to gain his support for the primaries in 2022. He's basically trying to navigate those waters. And then obviously you have those who are hardcore populists, the hardcore, Trump supporters that really probably don't want to come together with the establishment and the neocons, because part of the reason why Trump is so popular is because of how bad the establishment Republicans have been. Okay, so people like that would be probably Matt Gaetz, okay, the Lauren Boeberts, the Madison Cawthorns, the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the party would probably fit that description. Okay, so those are basically the three sides here. Now, the side that we really need to pay attention to, right, and we really need to focus on what is being said is from the establishment. And the reason why is because the establishment has the former president's fate in their hand. Okay, so with somebody like Liz Cheney, who has basically voted to impeach the president, is coming out and still going against the president despite having an ultra low approval rating, we need to pay attention. Okay, but before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching a Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So let's take a look at this interview that Liz Cheney did on Fox News, and where she's going to be asked by Chris Wallace whether or not she thinks President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like that, still have a role in the Republican Party. Let's take a listen.
This still the party of Donald Trump, and does Marjorie Taylor Greene still hold a solid place in that party?
Chris, we're the party of Abraham Lincoln. We're the party of Ronald Reagan. We have to really take a hard look at who we are and what we stand for, what we believe in. I think when you look at both his actions leading up to what happened on January 6th, the fact that he was impeached in a bipartisan fashion, the fact that he lost the presidency, the fact that we lost the Senate, we have to be in a position where we can say we stand for principles, we stand for ideals. Somebody who has provoked an attack on the United States Capitol to prevent the counting of electoral votes, which resulted in 5 people dying, who refused to stand up immediately when he was asked and stop the violence. That is a person who does not have a role as a leader of our party going forward. We have to make sure that we are able to convey to the American voters we are the party of responsibility, we are the party of truth, that we actually can be trusted to handle the challenges this nation faces, like COVID, and that's going to require us to focus on substance and policy and issues going forward, but we should not be embracing the former president.
Yeah, I mean, you need to embrace substance and policies and issues. I agree with that. But unfortunately, Liz, you don't get to decide who the leader of the GOP is, right? That is decided by the voters. And apparently, the voters don't really like her too much, okay? Because according to a memo, right, that outlined the results of a poll that was conducted by basically the Save America campaign, the super PAC that's run by President Trump. They basically tried to find out how popular Liz Cheney was in Wyoming after she came out and basically voted to impeach the president. According to the memo that outlined the results, 73% of Republican voters and 62% of all voters in Wyoming expressed an unfavorable view of the three-term congressman. Just 10% of Republican primary voters and 13% of general election voters said they would vote to re-elect her. Wow. So here's the thing. Liz Cheney, who is coming out and basically trying to take the moral high ground, she's acting like a Democrat basically. She's acting as if she actually has some real sway in the party and that she can't lose her seat. When the polls are showing that she actually is likely or almost guaranteed to lose her seat, because Wyoming is a heavily red state. I mean, you have Matt Gaetz on the ground campaigning against Liz Cheney. Okay? He's campaigning against her. That's not good. Okay? Right? Like you are in heavy danger of losing your seat. So you get no sway on to decide who's going to be the leader, because by the time 2024 comes around, you might not even be in the House at all, right? So I just find it funny, because if I was Liz Cheney, I probably would not be answering any questions. I wouldn't be doing anything right now except recalculating my political strategy and trying to figure out a way to save my House seat. That's if I was Liz Cheney. But furthermore, the survey of 500 likely voters, which was conducted January 25th, 2026 by Trump pollster John McLaughlin, also presents Cheney as profoundly weak in a Republican primary. The Congress member trails 54% to 21% in a head-to-head matchup against one of her announced opponents, State Senator Anthony Bouchard. Quote, Liz Cheney's decision to impeach President Trump makes her extremely vulnerable. McLaughlin writes to Jason Miller, the former president's senior advisor, in a memo outlining the results. It is evident her ratings are in bad shape among general election voters and have collapsed among Republicans and Trump voters. Yeah, Liz Cheney is not in a good position right now. Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I really don't understand this calculation from her, because, you know, I do understand what she's saying in the sense that, you know, the Republican Party does have to decide what they're going to do with some of the more extreme elements of the party. Like, I definitely understand that. But I think what happened to Mallory Taylor Greene, you know, not what the Democrats doing it to her. The Democrats obviously should have done it. But I think that them kind of just talking and coming together about, you know, the issue and talking about it and discussing it privately and then deciding how they're going to go from there, I think that's probably the best way to go about it, right? The Republicans can't keep letting the Democrats and the media dictate how they go about speaking on this issue of President Trump. And right now what you have is that you have a bunch of different factions of the Republican Party basically kind of saying different things that are showing that right now it is currently fractured. And because they're showing that they're fractured, they're allowing the Democrats to take advantage of that and to basically do whatever they want. Okay? So I think at this point, Liz Cheney, along with all the other establishment Republicans, especially the ones that's in the Senate that are thinking about trying to convict former President Trump, I think they need to think long and hard about what this could mean for their political careers and for the party moving forward, right? If Liz Cheney is an example for any one of these guys to follow, they should know that a vote to convict probably means that their career is over. That's how much of a stranglehold that former President Trump still has on this party. And I think when the GOP acknowledges that, they can finally come to terms with, okay, what policies do we need to start moving forward with? What things do we need to really start embracing in order for us to kind of win the party back. Okay, is it possible to go forward with Trump and still be a viable party? And I think that, it is possible, because a lot of people, right, that did vote for Joe Biden, they voted against Trump. That's not going to happen in 2024. Okay, that's going to be 4 years removed. If the Republicans can rally around somebody that's Trump-ish, but not overly Trump, right? That's not an establishment shield. That's a little different, right? And kind of walk the fine line, and also work with the president to do that, right? Kind of what Kevin McCarthy has been doing. And I understand you guys don't like Kevin McCarthy, or some people don't. I see what Kevin McCarthy is actually doing. Kevin McCarthy is trying to keep the GOP together. That's what Kevin McCarthy is trying to do, right? He's playing both sides. He's saying what he needs to say for the media and the Democrats, about the president. But he's also at the same time behind the scenes saying, okay, we have to still keep everything together. But if you can walk a fine line like that, I do believe that is the path moving forward in order for the GOP to be viable in 2024. Right? They're going to have to get a lot smarter about who they run and who they rally behind. Okay? And I think the establishment needs to start to really take a look at themselves and look in the mirror and ask, what have we done to help contribute to this? Right? Because you had somebody that was an outsider in your party come in and take over your party. What that tells you is that there's something fundamentally wrong with the party. Okay, right? So when Big Money Cheney, NEOCON Cheney, pro-war Cheney, is, really thinking to herself about, how she's going to survive politically, she might want to start thinking about the fact that her dad is a part of the establishment. She's a part of the establishment, and how much people actually hate the establishment. Okay? So it's funny when you see somebody that's so establishment like Liz Cheney come out and say that Trump's not the leader of the party, and then you look at the polls and you see that she's not even going to have her seat in 2022. She's really not doing herself any favors, and she's furthermore just proving how much power Trump still has, and that the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, are not moving in the right direction. They're not really doing the things they need to do, right? The establishment Republicans need to come together and actually try to reconcile with Trump in some way, and then figure out how they're going to move forward. I think that's probably the best move. Okay, but I do think to a certain extent the extremist elements have to be sniffed out, and that has to be put under control. But at the same time, just completely trying to cut Trump off is going to spell disaster for the Republicans. So I think there is a fine line that needs to be walked. However, the establishment needs to actually have a conversation, right? They need to come together and to try to bring the party together and probably get some more control over the party. Because at this point, if they just let Trump do his thing and they do his thing and they do their own thing, what will happen is that you're going to have a lot of populist right or Trump right supporters and representatives that are going to win a lot of seats, right? And they're just going to end up primarying out the GOP establishment. And then what will happen is that the establishment GOP, they'll just be forced over to become conservative Democrats. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen if they continue down this path. So if they don't want to become conservative Democrats, they might want to think about trying to work something out with the former president. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.